Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel with myself, Isabella. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, my name is Isabella. I'm a graduate of the Vaganova Ballet Academy. I then went on to dance with the Mikhailovsky Ballet and Eiffen Ballet before I founded BWI, which is an online platform with classes, courses and plans to help you smash your ballet and fitness goals. Along with that, I teach intensives both in London, which is where I'm based, and worldwide, soon to be in Australia. Super exciting. Hopefully more and more places as we grow and as we build this amazing community. So today we'll be looking at something which is long overdue, which is part 3 of the Vaganova then and now. So if you go back and look at the playlist of Vaganova, you'll see that we were looking at Vaganova in the 80s and we've worked our way all the way up to now. And in this video, we'll be looking at Nikolai Tsiskaridze's exam with the boys, which was super interesting when it first came out. And you can see that after looking at the other videos that I've done on this and other Vaganova videos that I've shared, and we even reacted to Nikolai Tsiskaridze's recent ladies exam, which was very interesting, you can see how his style and his way of teaching is completely different, like so different. The speed is much faster. The exercises are much more challenging and they're very theatrical. The whole exam is very theatrical. And we won't be looking at the whole exam now. Definitely comment down below once you've watched this boys bar if you want me to react to the whole boys exam. Let me know, because I definitely will. You can get a good feel of what this exam is all about just by seeing the bar. I personally feel like it's more of a presentation of choreography and more of a representation of the teacher rather than showing off the pure lines and the pure Vaganova style. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, you know, Nikolai Tsiskaridze is a renowned and he was a beautiful dancer. I'm a fan of his dancing. But as the Vaganova is changing, I'll be very interested to see where it goes, because this exam definitely represents a difference in, let's say, where the priorities are placed. Then we'll also be looking at Maria Chorova's exam with Kovalova, and then we'll be fast forwarding to 2023, which wasn't so long ago, and looking at some of the ladies there in the jump section. And I thought that exam was, again, quite an exciting exam to watch. The standard was technically very high, but it does seem like they were technically a little bit more daring and potentially a little bit messier, not as clean as they once were, because people are trying to be a little bit more daring and do slightly more, you know, more pirouettes, potentially more complicated exercises and jumps. So it's an interesting time as we evolve, you know, and I do hope, as a general note, that the Vaganova is able to hold on to its purity, its classicism, and something which does make it the best. You know, there is that thing of don't change something that's already great, and there can be a danger when there's new people involved of the need to change things. And I personally don't think it was the need to change things. And when something's already so reputable and so amazing, does it need to change? I think that's the big question. So let's dive in and watch Nikolai Tsiskaridze's boys bar. Here he is. There's not so many of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Only 10. I find already, you know, already the plie exercise is quite quick. It's like no bones about it, off we go. I always find it really interesting because I've watched a couple of his exams now, of seeing when is the moment when it gets mental. When is the moment when it gets crazy? And usually it doesn't take very long. Usually it happens pretty quickly, everybody. I do think, though, you know, Nikolai Tsiskaridze was, you know, a very beautiful dancer with a lot of expression. And I think he's actually taught his boys, like, to be slightly more artistic, you know, and have a little bit more potentially femininity to their dancing, like a little bit more expression with their port de bras that potentially male dancers wouldn't necessarily be inclined to have as much, obviously, as the females. Okay, so now we're going into tendu. So far, so good. So as you can see, there's like a lot of change of feet, a lot of change of direction all the time. And it's kind of always to make it interesting, energizing. And it is quick, it is fast. I think I heard something along the lines of Nikolai is trying to prepare them for choreography nowadays and company life where they're thrown different things, you know? They're thrown possibly balancing work, they're thrown things that are much quicker and they need to be prepared. But I'm kind of thinking, and I think a lot of people agree, it's like, well, the thing is, the training that really prepares them to be so versatile is the one that makes them really strong, and the one that builds up all that strength that can last a lifetime, you know, that foundational technique. And if we're going fast, a lot of the time that builds up different muscle, that builds up different skills. And I think it's much harder to do the slow adagio type stuff with long, beautiful lines and slow and controlled than it is to move super duper quick. I mean, they're just different skills. And I think if you prioritize one over the other, whether it's going quick or going slow, one of them's going to suffer. And so, yeah. And because the Vaganova is so renowned for, it's a very intense rond de chambre, is so renowned for its lines and its beautiful adage, I think that's something that I'm worried about it being lost, you know? And this is very intense for boys, you know? Look at them swinging the legs. And I think Nikolai was always actually quite a flexible dancer who had beautiful long lines, and he's obviously tried to accentuate that here in the boys and make them slightly better at it. But you know, it's a very intense bar for them. It moves super quickly. They can't lose focus for a second because it just is endless, non-stop. Even the grand ronds, you know, I'm really hoping they're using their glute muscles and their hip muscles, because otherwise they're definitely going to get some hip injury, which we don't want. Really important in these kinds of combinations that you hold on to that supporting leg for dear life. There's literally no time for them to get the legs up super high. Not that boys are necessarily as high as the ladies, but yeah, there's no time for any pause. They must be already dying. You would definitely want to use this port de bras for the rest. So this video itself, I mean, that's crazy. That looks mental. I'm just thinking, this is what I'm saying. It's like, that's not necessary. It's like, it's not a thing that's like actually necessary for a ballet exam, which is why it looks like it's more based around choreographic skill and more of like, let's show a performance type thing. So now we're in fondus. not too many exercises to go. Again, they look quite expressive in the upper body, using their head, which is, again, quite nice to see in male dancers. I mean, they are really beautiful, but the exercises are so complicated. And the thing is, what's very difficult is, because it is so complicated, they're doing quite well here. It's very hard to stay together and stay as one and stay in complete unison when it's this complicated and this quick. But I would love to hear your opinions down below, whether you think that this kind of accentuates the dancers, whether it makes them look better, whether it's something that is necessary, or whether it's kind of distracting, hindering the dancer, and whether it's making you focus on something else. Like usually when I watch their exams, I'm focused more on the amazing quality and skill of the dancer itself, whereas here I'm more thinking, I wonder what he's going to make them do next, and I'm more focused on the steps that he's making them do rather than, oh wow, that dancer is so beautiful. Do you know what I mean? That's where I find my focus going. Not necessarily saying that's wrong, but that's what's happening. And I've noticed he really does enjoy a lot of pirouettes, just endless pirouettes, and a lot of directional changes from tendu, away from the bar, going towards the bar, constant rises. I mean, their legs would be dead. I mean, in terms of stamina, their stamina has definitely built. They're probably very strong. But again, it's like, it's going to give them a different type of skill. Do they have the control? Do they have the control? And I think that's something that you would see when we went into the center looking at their adagio and things like that, especially with the women's class, which has been released, relatively recently. It's very interesting. I just find it interesting how there's no moment where it's calm. And I'm finding their forms a little bit lost, because it's just so quick for them. They're doing well, but they must be. Here we go again with the pirouettes. You need like a double shot of espresso just before this to get you going. Wow, finished in 5th. Whew, look at them. Dead, can't breathe. Oh my gosh. I'm not envious of this. Now he's slightly slowed down. But what's really interesting is watching this. I have watched this before, but watching this now after seeing the girls' exam, it's very interesting to see how actually he hasn't massively approached the two genders differently. So what he's been asking the males to do is similar to how he's training the females. I mean, obviously they have point shoes and things, but it's interesting, which is why I think the shape of the girls is a little bit more masculine, like a little bit more muscly in areas which they haven't necessarily been before. Again, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing at all. It's just an observation, because obviously, if they're doing a lot of slow jumps, if they're doing a lot of quick work, it's going to build the muscles differently, as opposed to doing long, kind of much slower stuff that kind of makes them a little bit more lean in the muscle. All these things are really interesting to observe and notice. But, I find it very interesting that Nikolai is training women now. I don't know whether that's something that needs to happen. I don't know why that has happened. I don't know whether he's really wanted to do that. Again, if he ever sees this video, I've got nothing against him at all. It's just, like I said, I'm a fan of his dancing. The poor guy in the middle with his long legs. Oh my gosh. He's amazing, by the way. I really like him. I think he's great, but I sympathize with the long legs. My God, it's so difficult. Look at them laughing. Look at Sydney Kova. That's my teacher there. Guys. Oh, so difficult, right? I mean, crazy. I think everyone's laughing because they're just like, that was kind of insane. That was kind of crazy. It's enjoyable to watch, but that's what I'm saying. It's distracting. I'm more interested. I'm kind of just like, whoa, look at this ridiculous, amazing choreography rather than looking at the dancers. So after watching some of the videos from Vaganova before and then now, you can see that in particular is like completely different, like night and day, so different. So that was 2018, and now we're going to look at Maria Chorova, which is also 2018, so the same year. This is obviously still with Kovalova, and Kovalova has been around a long time, a very long time, a complete legend of Russian ballet, who I think is probably someone who is heavily preserving Russian ballet, someone who is really focused on preserving classicism and the pureness. Now, obviously, with Nikolai Tsiskaridze in charge and the new leader, she's probably had to make adjustments herself. She's probably had to change things up to keep everyone happy. Let's watch this bar and see how she's been changing it and how her style is then different to not only Nikolai's boys, which was ridiculously fast, but also to his girls, which he has done recently. And you can go back and watch one of those recent videos. So already, as you can see, their tendu is, it's not super slow, but it's not manic at all. And when I was there as well, the tendu just wasn't something that was crazy fast, you know, because ultimately we're warming up still. We're warming up for the rest of the exam, which is challenging. And I think, you know, we just ask ourselves, is there a need to make it completely crazy, you know? But she's doing interesting things, like doing tendus away from the bar like that. Vaganova is kind of renowned for, especially the graduation exams, they're kind of very choreographical, but they're kind of, despite Nikolai Tsiskaridze, even aside from him, they're renowned for looking kind of impossible, like extremely difficult, extremely complicated. And they are, which is why we prepare for a long time, a few months really. We start off by learning just a couple of the exercises and slowly progress. We usually start with the exercises which take the longest, at least with my teacher. Obviously, every teacher probably works differently, but for example, Bolshoi Adagio in the center takes a long time because it's like 2 to 3 minutes long, and that would be something that we would start with. But, you know, with these girls, you can see they've got just beautiful, beautiful long lines, beautiful long legs. Their muscles are long and lean. They're working in a way that's really beautiful. And look how expressive they are as well with the upper body. Really nice. I'm also glad I am actually glad I wasn't there when we had to wear these brown leotards. I mean, I wouldn't be a complete fan of the brown. Beautiful alignment, beautiful extension from the girls. Lots of upper body. They're very flexible. And look at how they look into their hand whenever it comes to first. You know, they really look into the hand and the elbow slightly comes up, but without the shoulder. The shoulders come forwards. Beautiful grand jeté, hitting the écarté back, which is something that is often not the case. We often skip that. In order to do that, you need very flexible hips. You need to be able to really use that entire hip socket. Beautiful port de bras. You know, there's no restriction in their bodies. There's no restriction in their flexibility. They are very flexible, which gives you a lot of freedom of movement. And that's why we all worked super hard on our flexibility. And I definitely worked hard on that, because it is very restricting if you have that limitation. I always found développé front the hardest one. Now on fondu. So despite, you know, this exam being simpler, much simpler, definitely still complicated, but simpler than Nikolai's bar, I find I'm much more focused on their lines. I think their lines are stunning, and that's something that I'm really focused on because it is just so beautiful. And each individual dancer for me is standing out a lot more because of that, because the exercises are simpler. It's not so complicated. There's lots of use of upper body expression. Kovalova is a very passionate teacher. She adores ballet from her soul. She'll do it till the very last day on earth. And that comes across in the students. You know, she really brings out that soul and that passionate side. Anyone who learns from her is extremely fortunate. Just like any Vaganova teacher, she's demanding. She will work them to death, but all for good reason, to bring out the very best in them. There's no moment where their head's not used. You know, look at their heads, constantly being used, and there's no hesitation. Any backbend is a proper backbend. It's not just a little look of the eyeballs. We're really bending. And for me, this is what makes these students all look like just beautiful stars, you know, and dancers which are so interesting and expressive, and you can imagine them doing any number of roles on stage because they're already performing that artistic side within these exercises. You can actually tell, quite interestingly, that this Japanese girl in the middle there, I think she's Japanese. Apologies if she's not. You can see a little bit of differences in her technique compared to the other girls. Because again, if you join, I'm not sure when she joined, but if you join kind of a bit later on, there are things that obviously you didn't learn, especially if you join in the last year or even the last 2 years. You're just expected to do stuff, and there wouldn't be that kind of real, oh, let's break this down kind of class. And so it's kind of up to you to figure that out. Because I joined much earlier in the 6th grade, which was something that wasn't initially planned, but something I was very happy to happen in the end. I got more of that academic training, more of that, let's actually teach you how to do each individual step so that you can do it really well. Now we're into that adage, which is again something which is just beautiful to watch. And obviously Maria is really just got the most beautiful extensions, and it looks easy to watch. And it's not, nothing is limited in their movements. I mean, all these girls are very nice to watch. I really like the girl to Maria's right, actually. I think she's got something very nice about her, a completely different body type to Maria, but she has something that really catches your eye. I really like her a lot. I think she did Awakening of Flora at the Mariinsky. Here we go, last combat one. Notice how the shoulder is always still at the bar. Very important, and always held back. That's something which is a huge correction that I give a lot, is holding that shoulder back. Because if you look at these girls on the center bar, you never see that inside shoulder. It's always held. It's always strong. They've always got a beautiful sense of opposition in the body. Beautiful. Guys, so nice. So that was Maria Chorova. Again, really, really beautiful. Amazing job. A beautiful class. Kovalova really knows how to train them in a way that is so expressive, so that when they go into their company life, they really know how to express themselves. They really know how to bring that across with any movement given to them. So along with strong technique, there's beautiful lines, there's beautiful use of artistry as well within the very basic exercises. When they go into their company life, they really immediately look professional. It's really just, oh, let's embellish this artistry that you already have, rather than, right, let's teach you how to be an artist. And so that's what I think really makes the Vaganova stand out, is their ability to teach that. And obviously you get star quality from people like Maria Chorova, but all of them are very capable of joining a company and starting straight away with no limitations, no technical limitations and no artistic limitations. It's just, right, let's use this and embellish it and now progress as a professional dancer. So guys, now we're going to watch one final video, which is the 2023 exam, which I have looked at before. Let's look at the jumps actually. All right, so we're going from 804. So now already something different. Everything looks a little bit more exaggerated in this exam. So now this is, we just watched 2018 and now we're watching 2023. This is again Kovalova's class. So the same teacher, but obviously different students. And in front of us is Diana Vishneva and Yuri Fatev. I actually think the woman in front, Maria, who's dancing, who is beautiful, so much facility, like amazing feet, huge jump. I actually think she looks like Diana Vishneva in the face. And they're so technically strong, all of them. It's also key that, you know, Nikolai by this moment has had several years where he's put the girls on point in the center. So not just for a point section, but he's put them on point for, I believe, adagio. I mean, most of the exercise in the center. I forget exactly what's on flat, but pretty much immediately he's put them on point. And I think because that's been happening several years now, they do look strong on point. They do look like they can handle it, and they're used to it. But obviously, it's working in a different way. But it kind of is teaching them the ability to jump in point shoes and, yeah, to be really versatile and not requiring extra training when they get into the company. I believe that is his idea here. And Kovalova's showing a little bit of repertoire. She shows a little bit of aurora variation there. But I have been told from my sources, my inside spies, that when they initially were first put in point shoes and when they were initially asked to do more point work, initially a lot of them were getting injured because, you know, their body's not used to it. And that's no surprise. I mean, they're working differently. And there's potential that their ankles, you know, aren't used to that. But they do look strong. They do look very nice. And of course, this is Kovalova's class, so that's no surprise for me. Like, she is an absolute diamond in the ballet world. And, you know, when the original teachers, let's say, are no longer there, such as Kovalova or Marina Vasilieva, it's going to be very interesting to see how it evolves, because then it's really down to the newer generation, apart from Grubanova. But they're very strong, you know. They have really nice technical skill. I do wonder what they're talking about. But Maria there in front is very strong. What I did notice though is, oh gosh, wouldn't you just love to be sat next to Yuri Vaganova and get the inside scoop? Their flexibility is amazing. They look very uninhibited by their flexibility and very strong. I mean, her arabesque is insane. But I do think their style looks slightly more Bolshoi. Slightly more like Bolshoi vibes rather than pure Vaganova vibes. I think it's down to the upper body mostly. Because the arms in Vaganova are so renowned for being beautifully pure, beautifully classical. And although they still are, there's a slight sense of, there's more of a sense of brashness here. It's hard to put into words, but there's something. And I think I remember in this clip, you know, Maria then forces herself to do double attitude. Which again is like pushing the boundaries of technical skill, which I think in the past they wouldn't have done. I don't think they ever thought that was necessary to happen. But they're pushing it now, and it is impressive, but it makes things look a little more untidy. But judging by Yuri's face, they're quite excited by it. And looking at the other girls, they also look pretty good, considering this is obviously the graduation class. And Maria went on to go to Bolshoi, which suits her, but I'm sure Yuri's quite upset about that because I'm sure he wanted her to go there. So comparing, if we go back and we're comparing to the original classes and the original Vaganova videos from this series, I'll definitely put this in the same playlist. You can see that we're just lacking, or it's just not necessarily lacking. The purity has changed. It's more, let's say, impressive, a little more brash, a little more, I want to say flashy. And yeah, it is impressive. I am thinking, wow, I can't believe these are graduates, like they're so ready to go. And it's no surprise that, you know, Maria has done a ton at Bolshoi already, like a ton of soloist roles. Because yeah, she's totally strong and ready. And that is exactly what you want to happen when you graduate from ballet school. I think, just talking about other schools for a second, aside from, you know, places like Paris Opera and things like that. Oh, someone's fallen over. I think that is something which lacks in a lot of schools, is how ready they look. You can see from her arms, you know, her arms look a little more stiff than, say, you know, they used to in the past, but they're impressive. They're quite gymnastic in skill and virtuosity. Anyway, we're into the frettes now. We'll pause there. So super interesting. So guys, that concludes this series of Vaganova then and now. And I would love to hear your opinions. Definitely look back at the previous videos and let me know what your favorite year is and why, and how you see the Vaganova has evolved. Where do you see the focus now is on? For me, it seems to be on, especially in the exams, choreographic prowess, choreographic skill, and making the exams more of an impressive demonstration rather than necessarily highlighting the dancer itself and the individual artist, which is about to graduate and go into a company. Like, look at these stars that we've produced. Obviously in Kovalova's class, there's a bit more focus on the dancers and there's still a lot of purity there. But there is more push for pirouettes. There is more push for higher jumps and things like that. And so, yeah, it is very interesting. I think for me, whenever an Instagram video comes up, I always thoroughly enjoy looking at the golden age, you know, of like Juliana Lepatkina in class, Novikova, just like insane, pure classicism. And if you look at those dancers who are still dancing today, you know, they went through the purest years of the Vaganova Academy with the most amazing teachers. If you look at them nowadays on stage, they don't look like they're falling behind. They don't look like they're suffering. They don't look like the youngsters are coming up and taking over. Maybe the young dancers are chucking in more and more pirouettes here and there, but I'm still drawn towards, even though they're older than them, drawn towards their artistry, their use of upper body, their purity. And that never goes out of style. That never gets old. That's never something that you get tired of watching. What I glean from that pure classicism and that pure training lasts a lifetime. It's kind of like when you buy a beautiful wool coat or a beautiful leather bag or something. If you go for the cheap version, it may look great for now, but it doesn't last long. You know, it doesn't stand the test of time. And I think the same for how we train ourselves. You know, you've got to really put in that time and train that pure classicism, which will take you a lifetime. Whereas if you go super quick and you bash out the pirouettes and you focus heavily on that sort of stuff, one of these days, you know, you'll trip up, something will catch you out and it's not as interesting. It's similar with pop music that we love and we adore, and pop music that was so great and lasts a lifetime was from decades ago. Nowadays, you hear a song, it's great for a few weeks, and then you get bored of it and you'll never listen to it again. I think we need to hold on to the pure classicism of the Vaganova, or whatever school you're in. Like, you got to hold on to those traditions and what makes it so great. And sure, we can evolve, sure, we can push the boundaries a little bit more, but we can't lose sight of what made it so great in the first place, you know? And I don't think we are just yet. I don't think that's what's happening, but looking at it, there is a chance that it could be. So, which I hope doesn't happen, but you just never know, and be interesting to see. And I'm so grateful for the time I went there, because can't replace that time. And it was a fabulous time. And I was especially grateful to be under an icon that I looked up to, such as Altanaya Silmuratova. I mean, I never got tired of hearing her feedback. Interesting video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I love doing these types of videos. I could do it all day. And I'll speak to you and see you super soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.